All right, writing workshop. Finishing up this lesson with just a little preview of our next major essay, the Persuasive Research paper. I want to clarify that this is just a preview right here. We're going to do some work next week with selecting topics and researching. I want to give you an idea about what this paper is about, so you can start thinking about the kind of topic you might want to write about here. Throughout your years as a student, you've certainly practiced informational research, things like your article reviews for biology, any sort of poster project you've done these past couple of years. If you had Miss Im for English 1, you probably did the pirate research project, or if you had Mrs. Schley World War II research. That's informational research. It's using research to present facts to your audience. Taking a step forward with informational research is persuasive research, which is a little more common in college. This is using research to shape your audience's beliefs or actions. So it could be on like a social studies or a social sciences kind of level. It's to convince your reader of some kind of political or moral point, or it's to defend your beliefs or ideas, your opinions. On the science level, it might be convincing your audience that that something is a good process to do. For instance, stem cell research, or arguing that the United States should continue exploring space or not. Those are ideas that could be used for persuasive research. So as we work on this paper, we're really practicing two things. One is the research process that we've been working on this week. Another is persuasive writing. How do we use writing to make arguments and defend them? For a controversial, notice all caps controversial, has to be a topic that has multiple sides to it. Topic of your choice, I want you to choose a stance. Notice that there are 4 stances, we'll talk about those in a moment, and defend your stance in a 3 to 5 page research paper. So for instance here, controversial topic, let's just use gun control, right? That's kind of raging up in the news right now, as President Biden is considering using an executive order to ban assault weapons like AR-15s. Let's say I'm going to choose a stance on that, right? I could choose yes, assault weapons should be banned entirely. No, they should not be banned entirely. Notice that there's also yes, but, and no, but. This is a way to kind of go more moderate on your stances without saying yes and no, because yes and no is a cop-out. Yes, but might sound something like this. Yes, assault weapons should be banned, but the ban should only be temporary, something like a 5-year ban or something like that. I could also go no, but. No, assault weapons should not be banned, but the United States should enact heavier measures for background checks for purchasing a firearm, something like that. Again, that allows me to go a little more moderate on my controversial topic without saying yes and no, because yes and no kind of contradicts itself. I want your paper to consist of at least 5 paragraphs. If you're writing 5 paragraphs here, you're probably hitting 3 pages, no problem. That would be your introduction, your conclusion, 2 body paragraphs, and a counter-argument paragraph. More on that in a little bit. As far as formatting goes, your paper must have your normal MLA heading and title. MLA citations from at least 3 sources. We talked about citations in our last video. 1-inch margins, 12-point font, double-spaced. We already know that stuff. Really the main thing that you'll want to work on now for your persuasive research paper is figuring out what controversial topic you like. I'll show you 2 websites for finding some ideas for controversial topics. They are procon.org and kialo.com. Both of these sources list good arguments for both sides of every issue. Notice that these do not count as credible research sources. They're going to give you ideas on where to go to find research, but they're kind of like Wikipedia. You don't know who the authors are on either of these sites. They will take you to better research sources. Let's take a look at those, and then we'll talk about how this paper is evaluated. Let's look at Procon. So procon.org, it's run by Britannica. Encyclopedia Britannica is a great informational source on the internet. What Procon does nicely is it collects controversial topics today that you can then research. As you look, they do sort between most popular and then go by category. So if you have a category you're interested in, that might help you to find your topics. I'm just going to look at most popular right now: fracking, packing the Supreme Court, reparations for slavery, cancel culture. Ooh, let's look at historic statue removal. I saw a couple of good ones last semester for this. There's a picture of a Confederate statue being removed right there. Here we can kind of see the basic arguments for and against historic statues being taken down. The pro to taking them down: the statues misrepresent history, they glorify people who perpetuated slavery, they're glorifying people who tried to secede from the United States, arguably a terrorist cell. It's celebrating losers of the Civil War. Other pros: statues are a painful reminder of institutionalized racism in the United States. There are many other people who could be better represented by statues. Those are the three main ones right there. One thing that's kind of missing from their pros list right there is that these statues could be better used elsewhere. The idea of, instead of taking them down and destroying them, that they could be placed in museums instead, kind of like how the Holocaust is represented in museum form. That way they're not out in the public and people can choose to see them. On the con side, why should we not take them down? They represent our country's history. Mind you, I don't agree with these cons. Taking them down is a form of censorship that shouldn't be allowed in the United States. Removing statues is a slippery slope that could lead to removal of other monuments to anyone who's even slightly problematic. Statues do not cause racism directly. They're only used to remind them. They could be used to fight racism and if put into context and taught rightly. Those are just ideas for that one. Once again, Pro-Con lists sources by categories. Let's say you really are interested in health and medicine. Maybe you want to do something more sciencey. There's some health and medicine ones right there. I don't know what marijuana for pets is. It's kind of crazy. Like vaccines for kids. Should the government be able to require children to be vaccinated? Yes or no? The one topic I will ask you to avoid for this one is abortion, just because it's such a politically loaded topic. And I know in a Christian school I'm going to see a whole lot of essays on that. I will ask you to avoid that topic entirely. If you're interested in education, there's a lot of good topics there. Political ones is going to be a big one. More science and technology, elections, just like we saw in the 2020 election, on should the election system be changed. World conflicts, entertainment and sports is a good one. Economy and taxes. The topics go on and on for your research. The crazier one to look at is Kialo.com, and I will warn you, Kialo is the rabbit hole. Let me show you this real quick. I could get lost on this website for days. All right, so one thing I would note about Kialo right here is that Kialo is crowdsourced. So instead of Pro-Con, where it's assembled by, I would assume, people who actually work for Britannica, Kialo is more of a social networking site right here. Notice their numbers, public debates, 2.2 million contributions to this website. So people have contributed ideas to this site 2.2 million times. Ideas have been upvoted 1.1 million times, so half of all contributions have been upvoted. 15,000 unique debates on this site. Some of those are in foreign languages, other ones won't really work for our topics. 553,000 unique claims. So again, the rabbit hole, lots and lots to look at here. Again, these are, for the most part, controversial debates. Some of them would be really, really tough to do in a research paper, especially ones that you might see under like philosophy or religion. So for instance, if I look at religion, the existence of God, right? It's going to be tough for you to write a 3 to 5 page research paper arguing that God exists. You're going to need more space than that, and it's going to be tough to find authoritative research outside of the Bible on that one. It's really tough to find authoritative research that disproves the existence of God. So again, the more philosophical topics might be difficult, but if we look at some of those topics that are a little more debatable, let's go to the popular ones and see what's there right now. Was Donald Trump a good president? That might actually be one that you could use for this research paper. You can argue, yes, he was, and here's why. No, he wasn't, here's why. All humans should be vegan. I don't know about that one. Existence of God. Let's look at should zoos be banned right here. So this is an ethics question. It is one that you could certainly argue for or against right here. But let's see how Kialo is built. And hit enter to go into this debate. So the basic debate, the basic claim is that zoos should be forbidden. So pros are arguing yes, they should be forbidden. Cons are arguing that no, they should not be forbidden. And we can look at that list. Some people argue that zoos are unethical, that they cause suffering and harm to animals, they violate animal rights. Zoos facilitate the black market, so illegal trafficking of animals. Zoos create pollution. They put humans at an increased risk of being harmed by wild animals. Notice the ones that have the bigger green bars are the ones that have been upvoted more. Same thing on the con side, right? Zoos play a critical role in conserving endangered species. What else? Zoos do important work to improve animal well-being and research. They're an educational tool for the public. A ban would close zoos where animals are thriving, like the St. Louis Zoo, where I'm from. They have a big impact on economic development. They usually generate revenue for cities, especially. People enjoy going to zoos, so they should be allowed to do so. It's a matter of freedom. All of these are clickable. So let's take a look at this con right here. Zoos play a critical role in the conservation of species right here. What we have is another claim with its own pros and cons. Pros arguing yes, zoos are important in conserving endangered species. Cons saying, you know what, there are better ways to do this, right? We can do this without keeping them captive. Only a small part of the animals in zoos are there for conservation. The vast majority of animals in zoos are not endangered. The arguments go on and on. They're even further clickable. Most of them are, at least. And some of these cons, or some of these claims have more claims. Like I said, Kialo is the rabbit hole, so I would only use this if you're really, really having trouble finding a topic and want to see an even broader view of the arguments being made. I'd like to remind you, Kialo is not citable. We don't know who the authors of these claims are right here, but it might give you ideas on the kinds of arguments you want to look for. Little bit of time frame for this essay. It is the biggest one we're writing all semester. Outlines will be due by the end of March 5th. If you can get yours in before March 5th, that is ideal, because then you can get started on your first draft early. Your first draft, I would like to get in before spring break begins. That gives me spring break as a time to comment on first drafts, and that way you can relax a little bit over your spring break too. Final draft will be due 2 weeks after that point. So we'll spend some time revising and editing first drafts. Want to give you a chance to maybe trade your draft with a classmate and do some editing before we get final drafts in. Just like it is with your college application essay, I will give you our last grading period as a time to revise your graded draft for a higher grade. You don't need to worry about your topic proposal right now. That's something we'll work on next week. But once you find a controversial topic you like, I want you to phrase your topic as a question. For instance, should assault weapons be banned? Give your stance. I'm going to say no, assault weapons should not be banned, but there should be heavier measures for background checks in the US. And then I'm going to start listing off my reasons. Notice that I've given you a space for up to 4 reasons. I would at the very least come up with 2 distinct reasons. That's 2 body paragraphs, and then a counter argument. Reason 1, I might focus on why they shouldn't be banned. Banning assault weapons would violate the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution. Reason number 2, I might shift my focus to background checks. I would still argue that dangerous weapons are still ending up in the hands of dangerous people. The United States can legally pass measures to make it harder to acquire a firearm. Again, if I want to add more reasons, I can. That would give me more body paragraphs, maybe shorter body paragraphs. In my counter argument, I need to state what the other side says and refute it. So I might say, some people are arguing that banning assault weapons would not be against the Second Amendment because people could still legally bear other firearms. And then I would just argue that, what would I argue here? I would maybe argue that that adapting the Second Amendment might be a slippery slope to eventually abolishing it, and it is a freedom that I think Americans should still have. Just an example. I don't know if I fully agree with everything I just said. Just wanted to give you an example there. I'll let you read through the rubric on your own to see how I'm grading this essay right here. A bigger focus this time around on essay structure. So notice that I split it between introduction and conclusion. A lot of stuff on your body right there. Grammar, length, and structure. And there is a grade for your research at the very bottom. 3+ sources properly cited in MLA format. Spend some time this weekend researching topics. Find one that you like for research. We'll spend some time early next week selecting topics so you guys can start your research process and start outlining.